a pulsing underwater oasis, a peaceful garden of unique animals, a quiet corner to rest and observe, living art that can be passed down through generations, an aesthetic masterpiece you created. BRS and Worldwide Corals are proud to take you on this journey and to build your first euphyllia garden. Don't forget, this video is part of an entire series where we take the innovative Marine 40 NUVO Fusion Pro 2 and build several completely different habitats. The first video in this playlist tells you all about the gear that we use and how to set everything up. The link to that video is in the description below. There are three main types of corals found in the genus Euphyllia: torch, frog spawn, and hammer corals. They come in a wide variety of colorations. Euphyllia grow in one of two different patterns: branching varieties and wall varieties. Wall varieties typically grow much slower, are difficult to frag, and are really hard to recover once diseased. For those reasons, and especially for beginners, we will always recommend to buy branching varieties. All of the corals you see behind me in the tank come from Worldwide Corals. Based out of Florida, Worldwide Corals prides itself on clean, healthy, aquacultured corals. All of their corals go through a rigorous, lengthy, and multi-step quarantine process. All of their corals are grown under LED lights, which means they will acclimate easily to most systems. Out of an abundance of caution, I did my standard 3-part dipping process when I received these WWC corals, and there was nothing on them. No pests, no hitchhikers, no algae. There are a few general care requirements for euphyllia: low to medium indirect flow, par between the ranges of 50 and 150. I personally strive for a range of 75 to 125. And lastly, give them room to grow, especially torches. Sometimes torches don't play nicely, especially with other hammers, so giving them plenty of space is a good idea. But that being said, I have never had a problem with my hammers and frog spawns close together. Sand and scape. Carib Sea Special Grade is the perfect size sand for this setup. It's small enough on one hand to give a consistent, small, tropical beach feel, but large enough grain size to stay put under medium flow. I added just enough sand to this tank, probably around 15 pounds, just enough to cover the glass entirely and give a slope from front to back, which really helps create a sense of depth in the tank. For rock, I used a mix of the Carib Sea Life Rock shapes along with the Nano Reef kit. I keep a large selection of this rock in a Brute trash can that's already cycled because this will help acclimate the corals quickly. For this aquascape, minimal in style with lots of empty space. I wanted it relatively flat and sloping upwards until it came into contact with the back panel. I chose pieces with a lot of nooks. That way I could hide the coral skeletons as much as possible. For some additional strength, I used the Max Spec Coral Putty to secure the reef rock together. Filling the tank, cycling, and water parameters. To disturb the sand bed as little as possible, I used a plastic OXO strainer to disperse the water. On top of the pre-cycled reef rock, I also added a media bag full of cycled rubble rock to the rear filtration chamber. I'm using Tropic Marin Pro Reef Salt, which mixes to an alkalinity of 7.0, calcium of 440, and magnesium of 1350. I'm keeping a consistent temperature of between 76.5 degrees and 78 degrees. Euphyllia are notorious for doing poorly in low nutrient systems, so I'll be dosing Brightwell Aquatic's Neophos and Neo Nitro as needed to keep those levels up. With the tank about halfway full, it's a perfect time to use those composite shims to level the tank. Gear setup. Using the included Mighty Jet DC return pump, I have it set to 1.1 to 1.4, which is a gentle pulsing motion. I chose that because it gives just enough movement to the torch corals I have in the front of the tank. But I found that the return pump alone wasn't giving enough flow to all the euphyllia, so I did add that Seche Extreme SDC wavemaker. I placed it in the upper back left of the tank where it intersects with the two return nozzles, creating a little bit of turbulence and giving flow evenly around the tank. For my setup, I found that the impulse setting with a max of 40% and a minimum of 0 with 2 seconds on and 3 seconds off to give just the right amount of flow. For my ATI Sun Power T5 lights, I have 2 actinic bulbs and 2 Coral Plus bulbs. I have the actinics set at a max of 40% on channel 1, and on channel 2 are the Coral Plus bulbs set at a max of 70%. I chose that 40-70 split first and foremost because it really looked good to my eye, and secondly, I did use my par meter to check the light, and those settings gave me readings of between 75 and 125 all throughout the aquascape. I did choose to set up a BRS dosing pump, which is dosing Tropic Marine Alpha Reef. Adding livestock. Worldwide Corals overnighted me just over 30 euphyllia frags, and I asked for a mix of shapes and colors, but I didn't want anything super high-end or collector. I dipped, inspected, and placed all of the coral frags into my water box frag system. Please note that if you're starting out and building your first euphyllia garden, you will not be buying this many frags to put in your tank all at once for a whole myriad of reasons. Just start out with a few, 3 to 5, and you can purchase more as time goes on to fill out your tank. It'll be really helpful to you if you don't think of this as an overnight project, but rather a 1 to 2 year project where you get to watch your corals grow out and expand to fill your aquascape. Since all my frags are small, I only needed to use super glue to attach them to the aquascape, and I always remove the frag plug. I started my design by separating the corals by type and then by color within their type. I tried my best to create a rainbow road of torch corals from the front left of the scape all the way through to the upper right of the scape. I then placed the hammer corals, for the most part, to the left and top of that rainbow road, and I placed all the frog spawn to the bottom and right of the torch corals. I mean, just check out the final product. Worldwide Corals absolutely killed it with these diverse euphyllia. Long-term care. When you're ready to add a cleanup crew and some beginner fish, the videos we've already made are a great reference and we'll link them down below. Personally, I rarely target feed euphyllia corals, but I do broadcast feed the tank once a week and add coral aminos as well. I will of course be testing weekly and adjusting the amount of all for reef accordingly. If any of your euphyllia corals start to brown jelly or show signs of disease, don't hesitate to turn off the flow, remove them from your tank, and re-dip them. Other than that, just watch your euphyllia, especially for those first couple weeks, and adjust the wave maker to give the perfect amount of flow. I have never been the best aquascaper, and that's just a fact, but if I'm being honest, this is probably the favorite aquascape I've ever made. But it is only one example of what you can do with this innovative Marine 40 tank. Click here to see 5 completely different habitats we built from this tank alone. And as always everyone, thanks for watching, happy reefing, be well, we'll see you next time.